But he also wrote these words. You don't have to turn there. I'm just going to quote something real quick. Now remember, the foundational doctrine of Martin Luther revolves around salvation and the need not to do good works anymore. His doctrine is summed up in the statement, salvation is by faith alone. No works have anything to do with our salvation since Messiah's death, burial, and resurrection, and because of it. I'm in what you commonly call the New Testament, more properly called Brit Hadashah. I'm in the book of James, chapter 2. Notice what James writes. But do you not know, O foolish man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works? Justified by works? When he offered Yitzhak, his son, on the altar? Do you see that faith was working together with his works? And by works, faith was made perfect? How many times do you need to read over and over again the Father through his prophet, usually the Apostle Paul, proper name Shaul, write over and over again about us being judged by our works? Now I know what some of you Protestants are saying out there. Wait a minute. Ephesians says, for we are saved by grace through faith, and that not of ourselves, lest any man should boast. Yes, we are saved by grace through faith, but we are judged by our works. So the key is the definition of the word saved. See, we all think, because of Martin Luther, incorrectly, saved means done deal. Wrong. Saved does not mean done deal. Saved means justified. The start of the work that still has to go through the long period of sanctification. Now we see this best in the Old Testament lesson of the nation of Israel, the chosen people of Yahweh. Yahweh himself caused a famine. That forced Israel to go to Egypt, to depend on Egypt. That's what they had to do. Yahweh is teaching us something here. If heretofore you have been confused as to why Abraham obeyed Yahweh, and yet when he obeyed Yahweh, after entering the promised land, he brought a famine upon his own people. Well, Abraham was scratching his head too, I'm sure. What's up with this? But Yahweh has a plan. That's why we don't moan. We can't see all of Yahweh's plans in our lives. When you moan, it's because you can't see your way out of something and you cannot see the reason why you have to endure something. Just like Job. Why I got to go through this? I'm a righteous man. I offer sacrifices. I even offer sacrifices for my sons and daughters. What's up with this? He never said that. He said the opposite. Remember? Remember? Over 30-some chapters, he's talking with his friends. And he constantly says, his friends look at him and says, no, you didn't do anything wrong. And he keeps going, no, I must have done something wrong. Otherwise, this wouldn't happen. Then midway through, he changes. Because they accuse him of doing something. He says, no, in retrospect, I didn't do anything wrong. But he remained humble enough to say, in the midst of his pride, he remained humble enough to say, yeah, but it's still the will of Yahweh regardless of how good I am. And that's what saved him in the end. Yahweh called him on his pride, They said, where were you when I made the stars? Did I ask you for this or that? And he humbled himself, and then Yahweh blessed him by restoring everything double-fold, wiping away all tears. This is warning us not to be like Job in his bad state. He didn't know his own evil. Do you see, writes James, that faith was working together with his works, and by works faith was made perfect. And the scripture was fulfilled which says, Abraham believed Yahweh. Now there is a definition biblically of belief. See, in the context of what the brother of the Messiah is making as his point, he goes to the word faith or believe. Now, he's already established his case. He's already made his case. You cannot argue against it. But guess who did? Yes, one Martin Luther. So disturbed was he by the book of James, he tried to get it thrown out of the canon of the Bible. Hello. Does that sound like a true prophet of Yahweh to you? And the entire Protestant church follows after him. Now remember, what Martin Luther, Doctrines of Men, what Martin Luther said, not what Yahweh said. Yahweh never said, once saved, always saved. Never. He said the opposite. He never said salvation is by faith or belief alone. He never said that. And John 3:16 doesn't say that. Never uses the word only. It says if you believe, you shall be saved, but it never says if you believe only. Hello, somebody. Simple logic. Notice what he says. Abraham believed Yahweh, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. We've all been told that belief alone. But he just gave you an example. No. Biblically, every time the word belief is used, faith is used, it means faith with works. And notice what he goes on to say. The exact opposite of what Martin Luther's entire doctrine is based upon. The exact opposite. And he was called the friend of Yahweh. Why? Because of his belief. His belief in doing. You see then, he's making a conclusion, that a man is justified by works and not by faith only. Hello, somebody. Direct scripture. Now, this is scripture. Martin Luther was not commissioned by Yahweh to write scripture.